All right. Happy Friday as I'm recording this. I thought last week I was going to Page, which is that Pennsylvania, Pennsylvania area game mix, whatever it's called, outside Philly. It's actually this weekend. So tomorrow I will be at Page if you happen to be at Page, which is in Philadelphia or outside Philadelphia. Uh, yeah, Pennsylvania, something, something. Pennsylvania, something, something, somewhere, somewhere. Hey, Brian. Brian's got a plate of pizza rolls. Oh, wow. All right. Um, yeah. So first, I thought I would do a little channel review. Uh, so I did the if you're a long time follower of the channel, I split things up over the Christmas time. So now I have I think I call it behind the screens, and then I have this, which is the main channel, and I think it's been going pretty pretty well, actually. I'm still not totally up to speed. I hope to get back on the kind of streaming most weekdays, which I haven't. I don't think I've gotten to doing streaming every day of the week. But I'm hoping to get back to that more or less. There's always going to be exceptions here and there. Though most of those everyday streams will be on the other channel. And then, but what I think I'm going to be doing with here is having this Friday be kind of the stream day. Because I think I still want to do reads, like rulebook reads and things on this channel. And but then like I'm gonna working on stuff and other things will be on the other channel. So I think what I'm gonna have is kind of what I've been doing, which today I was a day late with the video. Uh, I'm trying to do Tuesdays, and today was this week rather was Wednesday. But Tuesday, Wednesday, I think put the video out, and then Friday have a stream kind of on here on the main channel, which will either be something like this where it's kind of a community oriented, read some blogs, talk about whatever, and then have a read on there kind of thing. And so kind of go have those two as sort of these. So you should see if you're following this channel with notifications, you'll probably see, a hit on Tuesday and then a hit today. A community tab. I like the community tab. Um, Unfortunately, what I found with the community tab is the timing of things. So if I want to say, and this is something I'm still working at, whereas with the behind the screens thing, is if I want to put on the main channel, hey, I'm streaming over on the behind the screens channel, the community tab, it's not fast enough. It doesn't, I don't think it transmits or alerts people quickly enough. And the other thing is that I know more and more people are doing YouTube on TV and other appliances like that and not on a computer. And community stuff doesn't show up on the TV or anything like that. So, I mean, it'd be great if folks followed me on other platforms, but it's a great kind of diaspora of folks who follow me in different channels. YouTube seems to be kind of the one place where everyone gets to, but like I said, it's not timely. So I'm still kind of working on that. But of course, if you are interested in those other streams that I do, then the best thing to do for all involved would be to go to that channel and subscribe to it, and you can get a link. It's on my channel page. I found that my videos are doing better. I mean, I'm not, look, I can't compete. I can't, and I do not compete with folks that do tons and tons. But I have noticed that, just relatively speaking, I think that it has worked in terms of what I wanted to do was kind of bring attention to the particular videos, and not necessarily not that they get kind of lost in too much noise. I mean, I don't want to characterize things I do as noise. I think I was a little bit better at that, but at the same time, when you're putting out a lot of stuff, it's just easy to get overflow. And I feel like cutting back here has helped, or is helping, to kind of bring attention where I want it most. And I think that's kind of being reflected in the analytics side of things, which if you watch some of the videos going around, I mean, as creators, we are looking at the analytics stuff. We're not blind to it. I don't bend over super backwards to try to hit analytics. I think it's been interesting seeing people. I'm not really trying to get in the weeds on it today, but there was a couple of channels have posted that they're kind of closing up shop or changing up. I think there was a prominent video about responding to folks complaining about clickbait, sort of the place of clickbait in the videos, and there are all these different things that folks do to try to work the algorithm, right? And I don't do a lot of that. Maybe I should do more. I don't, but I think this kind of reorg, kind of splitting things up, I think is is sort of at least in a small way an attempt to kind of like, okay, let's see what we can kind of figure out. So I don't want to, I'm not trying to change what I'm doing, not trying to change kind of who I am kind of thing, but it's like, okay, what little things we could do. And I think, the interesting thing with the clickbait side of it, and when I was watching some of these videos and I see the responses, and almost all of them are, I don't know, I'd say 90%, 85, 90% are very much kind of on the creator side, and basically saying, hey, if you need to do clickbait to essentially pay the bills, get the algorithm or whatever, then go ahead and you do it. I like that stuff, or I don't mind it, or I understand where you're coming from, whatever. And look, I get it. I get it too. It is super tempting to just lean in to the clickbaity stuff. But I have a feeling that the clickbait, it's a little bit like a poison pill, because I look at some of these channels who've made their living, so to speak, off of just Wizards of the Coast, Hasbro, doom and gloom, bad news. You can go back on some of these channel histories and look for years posting this stuff. Like every day, the sky's falling for Hasbro or Wizards of the Coast, whatever. Of course, that's not happening, but the sky isn't literally falling for them because they're still around. They're still here. They're not going anywhere. But what happens when that's kind of how you've made yourself? And this is where you're getting a lot of these views, these kind of Schadenfreude views, that people who are coming to, who want to watch that downfall. What happens when the news dries up? There's going to be a time when, just for whatever reason, you're not getting that. The bad news isn't coming. They stop gifting you. I mean, granted, with these corporations, maybe it might be hard for them to do, but there's going to be some times where it's just going to be quiet. Hasbro's doing what it's doing, and it's not making any particular errors, no unforced errors. At least nothing's really happening. And then what do you do? And I think some of the feedback that I think some of these channels have gotten, and some of the kind of pushback from their fans, or maybe more casual fans, is that you start to get more and more clickbaity, because you have to twist things more and more to get your Schadenfreude headline. And then it becomes more and more apparent that, like, well, this is not even close to being a real thing. This is, you're really like, and on the one hand, like, yeah, I get what you're doing, but I also remember that I think, I've heard this phrase about, like, hey, you can only sell your integrity once. And once you start shipping that stuff down the river, it can be tough. And I think, yeah, you're making bucks now, but hopefully, sock it away and save it, because if it turns out that not as many people, sorry, I'm just trying to open the window here. Somehow it's getting hot. It turns out not that many people I'd rather, I guess what I'm saying is, I'd rather have a smaller community who are genuinely interested in the good stuff than trying to cultivate a huge community of people who are interested in kind of the lowest common denominator. Let's see. Brian says, those kind of channels are the ones I completely avoid. Don't need extra streams of content to tell me how bad the world is. Yeah, yes, I totally agree. There's a lot, a lot, too much of that, I would say. So what else? Let's see. I don't think I have anything else to say on that score. Hey, Jason, didn't miss much. Basically, just kind of going over the sort of the plans I put in motion in terms of splitting the channel up into two, which I've done. So there's, and I don't know, Jason, I probably should keep reiterating it that, hey, I've got two channels now. One's kind of more impromptu stuff, which really, like, if you like streams like this, that's what is the other channels almost all about. Stuff like this. And if you want more formal stuff, for the most part, or at least maybe more of a balance between formal and kind of informal, then maybe this is more. Last night was game night, and I think I mentioned this. If you're following, well, let's say on the other channel, I streamed yesterday about it, so I gotta have to get used to the fact that I should never assume people have seen whatever it is that's been before. But yesterday, I talked about that it was game night and that I was actually running a game, and I'll switch cameras here so you can see, or to the blue. Okay. And I'd done this a little while ago. I don't know, when did I put it together? So March, looks like in March, somewhere in March, April, March, I threw this out here. I was, this must have been right after, was it at PAX East where I played Honey Heist? And I really kind of had a fun time with it, and I wanted something. It kind of made me think about Toon, or at least my memories of Toon. And then I sort of put something together and I kind of ripped it out and just threw it out there as kind of a Word doc. I was like, oh, this is great. And then I didn't really do much, hadn't really done much with it. But yesterday, after I got off this, I thought, you know what? I'll print out my Word copy, and I'll take that, and I'll take the other adventure, that Escape, which I've run a couple times now, and I'll take it over there and I'll see what they want to play. And they picked. I said, it's kind of like Toon, and I sort of. I just sold it as like, yeah, it's kind of, it's your chance to sort of let loose, be just a total goofball, sort of cartoony Dungeons and Dragons, right? And so they picked it. And it's funny because the feedback afterwards was kind of stuff that I actually was in the rules that I'd forgot to do. Like I do have some, because one of the things was like, so I guess so basically it was there was let's see, there were four players, and two of them were knights, and it's all very goofy. Let me show you the let me pull up the PDF here, and I'll give it a quick run through. So this is the brand new typeset edition. Yeah. So essentially, you're a dungeon master. You have some adventures, and it uses basically just a simple D20 and a 6-sided die for some stuff. You create your adventures really quickly, and I'm just looking for broad archetypes. Or that's what I'm just doing. So, I had them go and roll at D6. So somebody, I don't know if anybody got, I know we had an ornery dwarf. I think we got we had a treacherous kobold. I think Daniel was a treacherous kobold. We might have gotten I think we did get an irrationally confident human, and I forget if we got anybody else. And then you roll to see what your class is. And essentially there's 3 types: sneaks, sword arms, and sorcerers, and you kind of roll subtype for each one of those. But you can see here, there's no descriptors, there's no descriptions of these things. The idea is that you just use these keywords if you want, and however you want to. I think what descriptors are keywords, and you want to use them. If you can use them, you get. It's funny because they're supposed to be in the rules I've written with advantage. I was doing +1s, which I should have done advantage, which would have been better for them. In any case, things I get caught up in the moment, and rules that go flying out of my head. In any case, so you kind of get these keywords. So you get irrationally confident, you're human. Then I think we had one sticky-fingered thief with a hidden dagger. We had a sneaky burglar with a bundle of tools. I think we had 2 chivalrous knights wearing plate mail. So you're just getting these very broad things. And then for the sorcerers, we have different kinds of magic users. The pyromaniac pyromancer, the twitchy electromancer, the lonely twitchy electromancer, lonely necromancer, holier than thou priest, odorous druid, or tipsy alchemist. And then essentially you get an attitude. So Daniel was his character was morose. We had a couple, I think at least we had one eager. I think we might have had a couple of eager. I forget what the other one was. And then you could be on team, I got to write this up and I got to forget. You can be on team law, team neutral, and team chaos, which is I just put some scoring in there. So it's very much going from encounter to encounter. And you're just basically, I'm giving the objective. It's very much, hey, the scene opens up. You're trying to do a thing. If you're on Team Chaos, you want to try to win. You want to try to exit the encounter with as many of your so-called teammates knocked out, basically reduced to 0, hero points, hit points as possible. But the thing is, you cannot harm your fellows directly. So you're a pyromancer, you can't turn as fireball the group. But you could do something is if you're standing all within a wooden house, fireball the roof collapses, everybody is damaged. That you can do. So I think part of the fun here is if you're trying to play to Team Chaos, you're trying to complete the objective, but you're trying to do it and maybe take out as many people as you can, but you have to do it indirectly. And I think that's something that I did not do a tremendous job. I think people kind of got it, but I think I didn't push it maybe as much as I could have. There was a bunch of things I feel like I could have done sort of better with that. But it's very simple. You're running around, you're trying to do stuff. The DC is just 12. If you get 12 or higher, you succeed. You roll low 12, lower, you fail. And if you get a 1, you make it a spectacular disaster. and it's supposed to be very kind of cartoony. I got to add something else in here that I forgot. I even added something else about essentially, and like a cartoon. So you could do things like Daniel at one point, like spins around and he's wearing a dentist uniform and he's trying to extract a tooth, or one of the other players decided to make, I don't know where she got this idea from, a giant kind of man baby and a giant in a diaper. And at one point he took off the diaper and was trying to like use it as spin around, going around the room, spinning the diaper, trying to hit somebody with it. And of course they're all colliding with each other. And there's lots of literal little toilet humor going on with sort of stuff happening with the diaper, and they're all collapsing on top of each other and things are happening, and it was very kind of fun, a lot of laughs, which I was happy about. And then the stuff that I think I got wrong was I really forgot about the timing elements, because one of the issues you have to be aware of is that if you're on the chaos, like, and again, this is where I didn't communicate so much about kind of what you could do or what you shouldn't do, is kind of the chaos side when you're trying to basically at one point, so we played basically kind of a cartoony version of Keep on the Borderlands. So they started getting the job from the Castellan, then they had to go question somebody to get the information. I gave them, I think, 3 choices. One was the bartender in the tavern. The other one was the evil high priest in their evil temple, and I might have given a third one who I don't recall. They ended up going for the evil high priest, and there was a lot of fun there with and I was encouraging, use cartoon logic. So at one point there was some stained glass window with like babies being impaled and stuff, and Daniel tried to talk to the stained glass babies to get them to move so it would open up the pane of glass, but he rolled poorly. The man baby came and tried to jump through the pane of glass, but did really poorly, so she bounced off the pane of glass and fell onto Daniel. The 2 knights are bouncing around inside. There were skeletons inside. They were like on a smoke break, so they're smoking cigarettes, and there was a cauldron. There was some fun stuff with the cauldron getting dumped this way or that, and there's soup and poop on the floor and all kinds of stuff. Poop from the diaper when the big man baby got in, swinging the diaper around. So it was just a lot of fun, and that was just kind of in the first area. But in what happened in the second one is they end up going to this owlbear cave with a family of owlbears, and there's a body inside the cave that has a map on them. And at one point, one of the chaos guys got the map, but then they didn't want to end the scene yet because they wanted to get that experience, like they wanted to win the point for that scene, so they didn't want to end the scene with the map, and they were trying to kind of figure out how can I get the other people, like kind of get them knocked out. And there were a couple things there. One, I wasn't doing enough attrition for the hero points, so I added some more kind of attrition of like things you're doing are draining your hero. I call them hero points because they're not strictly hit points. Basically, you're spending hero points for all kinds of stuff, so you're going to be closer to getting knocked out. It's going to be more of a like, oh, I'm sort of down, I'm up, I'm down, kind of thing. And then, oh yeah, and I should make a note of this because I got to update the chart in the game. So let me just write this down before I forget, because I forgot to put the number. And I said I got to add a thing of getting hero points back. So that was a little bit of a confusion, and then it was also a little bit of how do you end the scene as the referee, if you're the game master or dungeon master, right? When do you decide that the scene's kind of over? And so I think one thing which I forgot to do, was there's supposed to be a round countdown, like this many rounds for the whole adventure, and I forgot to use it. And that would have helped, but I also think that once I was trying to just get in the flow of the game, the way things are going, it's a little bit madcap, which is kind of by design. Is I didn't feel like I wanted to be sitting there having to worry about rounds. So I think just using a clock timer and saying, hey, you have like 15 minutes. You have 15 minutes on this thing, in this particular adventure would work. So then I was kind of excited about it. So I went ahead and I've thrown this up. It was free. Now it's $2.99 since I spent quite a bit of time today typesetting the whole thing. But I'm pretty happy with it. I'm going to have to add a couple more. Add another page that I forgot to do about a couple things. But it was fun. It was fun to play it. I think people had a good time with it. It does have there is a, what would you, a PvP element, which is again by design, but it's supposed to be toon fun. This is where you don't have to necessarily PvP, and you can't PvP directly. You have to try to figure out ways to do it. But I think the other thing is that you have to. I should probably put a note in also is that you really want to. It really benefits from having like a lot of stuff around because all that stuff, all your all the kind of I don't know if set dressing's the right word or just you want to have a lot of things because people are going to interact with that stuff because you can't hurt somebody directly, right? If you and the mistake I think I made in the owlbear cave is there maybe wasn't enough stuff around, or I should have had the owlbears be more doing stuff in response. Because the other thing is, which is again by design, but I probably could have done a little bit differently, is that the enemies are pretty passive. It's not. I'm not trying to run a D&D style combat. Really, everything is just responding. The players try something, it doesn't work, something kind of happens. There probably are some ways to kind of escalate things and do things a little bit different to make it kind of feel much. But I do. It was something that is by design that it's not. It's meant to be really focused on what the characters are doing, the player characters are doing, and everything else is just kind of responding to either how they're succeeding or failing. So the enemies can be a bit passive, but they are passive. But I think I could probably run it in a way where it doesn't feel. They don't feel quite so passive, if that makes sense, because the responses are more engaging, I think, sometimes than I did. But overall, it was really good, and it kind of it was a lot of fun. And the other thing is, I didn't really get any kind of treasure stuff. I should have done that. I should have been more about kind of treasure. I didn't really think about it. So I didn't really. So no one got any kind of magic items to use, which is another way to kind of where people can kind of push the envelope. And this is just watered down cider for the working man, but it was fun. So it was really cool to get that done. I put up the updated version to itch, but I'm gonna have to update it again. I just noticed I'm gonna have to update it again. And I did update. I kind of like this cover, to be honest. Does anyone get? There's kind of I picked a comic, a certain comic for the kind of to style this header off of. But yeah, pretty happy with that. So that was this is mine, Michael Fraker. It's all mine. Yeah, and like I said, it was in a plain text. It used to look. Let's see, it used to look like this. Oops, hold on a minute. Did it open or did it? It used to look like this, where it was just that. Now it looks like this. So, yeah, so pretty happy with that. Yeah, and like I said, I'll have to update it again. There are some community copies out there because now it is now $2.99. It's not free. It was free. The playtest one was free. Now it's $2.99. But I do have 25 copies left of that. If you're interested in it, if you ever played Toon, one of the things that I mentioned this to Daniel yesterday, but I got Toon, or I reacquired Toon fairly recently. The old, like, first edition Toon and Toon Returns or Toon Strikes Back, I think, whatever the second book is called. I don't have the third one, I don't think. Anyway, I'd forgotten, or I had misremembered or forgotten, or whatever, how kind of crunchy it is for what it is. And I can't remember whether we just played it, because I think we were when younger, maybe. Yeah, I think, and maybe this is true of all these games, but it was when we were back in the day, and I don't know, late '80s, whenever I was playing this thing. I don't think I was as conscious of, or I just didn't mind so much the crunch, or I may even have wanted crunch, that kind of crunch, or the kind of crunch that comes with Toon. So it was just funny, though, that my recollections of the game, which I guess as they should be, were all about the stuff, the kind of goofy stuff we did in the fiction of the game, and nothing at all about actually playing it and what it meant to how mechanically we actually made these stories happen. We just played them. And I think what I like about this is that it's super, super easy to do. It's meant to just kind of get you in the game, do goofy things, and just have fun. And it succeeded. Of course, like everything, depending on your group, on the players, like, we all know each other somewhat well. Like they've been friends for a lot longer than I've known them, but still I've known them for over, a year now. So I'm not playing with kind of strangers, obviously, people's sense of humor and kind of what their, um, is, it's all going to be variable and blah, blah, blah. But, it was fun. It was fun. So that's there. It's up on itch. I will probably submit it to drive through, maybe even this afternoon. I think I'll want to fix. I'll probably go through and want to add those bits that I just realized I had forgotten to add before I go and throw it up on drive through. And drive through takes a few days anyway. But yeah, that was last night. That was fun. Okay. On to some blogs. As usual, if you guys have blogs to share with me, things you've written or things you've seen that are interesting, please pass them on. But since I haven't gotten any, I have to seek some out on my own. So I have a few, and if time permits, we can always go on a Reddit or somewhere and get more. So this one's from Draw the Rest of the Owlbear, called Trade Goods and Artifacts, which seems kind of cool. I'll zoom in a bit here. Trade goods and artifacts. Trade goods. If a treasure hoard includes trade goods, 1d6 types of goods are present. Roll 1d100 for each type. Values given are averages. When sold to an interested buyer, actual prices will vary. The goods listed are those most likely to be valuable enough to interest relic hunters. More common goods like grain and textiles may also be present. Hey Ian. Values for most goods are given per item slot. Character normally has 5 item slots on their belt and 10 more in their pack. A pack with 6 or more slots filled is heavy and contributes to encumbrance. A small sack has 6 slots, can be carried in one hand when full, and adds to encumbrance. A large sack has 12 slots, takes both hands, and adds significant encumbrance. Dust used by the upper classes of the Towerlands as standard currency can be carried 100 dust to an item slot. All right, so this is obviously some of the stuff is tied to a setting, aka the dust. But other than that, it seems pretty. I don't know what they mean if there's a specific mechanical thing in whatever their system is for the contributes to encumbrance bit, but you can swap that with whatever your encumbrance rules of choice. So what do we got here? So we've got you're rolling a D100, and you can be you got gold, silver, copper, tin, iron, gemstones, silk, ruined by moisture, furs, leather, spark skipper powder, some kind of flammable powder, ivory, incense, rare wood, salt, spice. What is the connection between the worms and the spice? Earthy, savory, and perishable. Spice, gel salt. Oh, I see there's a couple of spices. There's powdered semic, gel salt, ground kaizen. I guess it's cool they have these. I don't know what they mean. Semic is the one that's earthy and savory. Gel salt has smoky flavor and has mild stimulant effects. And then ground kaizen, hot and spicy. Some kind of sugar, bark, wine, spirits, naphtha, haga root, lotus flower. Okay, so there's a lot of this. We got a lot of stuff here. There's also dyes, ceramics. I think the interesting thing is the perishable notes, because you're in a horde. I just wonder, like, what does perishable mean? I know what it means. not what does the word mean. What I mean is there a roll you're making for whether it is perished or not? Because for the silk, we're saying it's ruined by moisture, which means it's been there long enough in a wet environment that it's not making it, right? But the spices presumably are not wet. But they're perishable. But have they? How old? What are we? Are we making? I mean, it seems like we're making these kind of assumptions about the horde in some places. In some places, we're saying about the horde that any silk that's there could not have been kept in any way enough that they're not become ruined, and therefore with a very low, I'm guessing, kind of low price. For the silk, because it's been ruined by moisture. But for the spices, we're not saying that, but we are saying they're perishable. But is that just for when we've carried them out of the horde, they suddenly get a time limit, or should I be rolling? It's just an interesting, or is it just letting me know that it's got a clock on it, but we don't know what that clock is. I kind of almost think, like, just give me or I guess let's just make a table and we could roll and see whether stuff, because ruined by moisture can apply to poetry, I guess, but it can also appeal to all the stuff that's perishable could also be ruined by moisture. So where's the moisture coming from, and why isn't it ruining some things and not other things? I don't know. Like the fine cheeses or preserved meats could all be ruined by moisture, as would, I mean, moisture pretty much is going to ruin everything, but maybe the ceramics and things like seashells, and it's everything can be ruined by moisture. So that's kind of interesting description. Excuse me. I think I would rather just have a roll of die and say whether it's in great condition, okay condition, poor condition, or ruined. Right? They haven't been ruined yet. Yes. Well, when is yet come? Let's see. Michael Ferger also says, one of my favorite GM experiences was a Traveler game where the party had a crate of spice, and they would go take hits off of it, roll on the Maze Rat's magical effects table for the result. Oh, that's Michael Ferger. I think that's great too. Go and you got like these like Coke heads, but they're spice heads, going and ripping off hits, running lines of spice, and weird things are happening. That's good. And then we have some artifacts. Okay, so it's a table. That's cool. It's a little bit. I don't know. So you have something like Divine Beast Mask. Elders of barbarian Ron tribes are said to treasure these masks above all. Okay, I don't know what a Ron is. Is it like a fawn, but it's different? Iron Circle Collar. When Sariel led her rebellion, she sought to shatter every one of these shackles. This one survived. I don't know what that... I guess it's when she's... So when this person led the rebellion, every one of them... is it... So it's an Iron Circle Collar. But I guess I think wouldn't there be, I don't know, thousands of these things out in circulation? She was going after all of them, but didn't get them. Okay. So a little bit I guess setting dependent. And I have no idea what their setting is. But good on them for getting it out there. Let's move on. This is from iCastLight blog. Practical Magic 3. Starting Magic users are not feeling the magic. All right, so they wrote an earlier article about... Maybe we should read that one first. So there's a previous blog post that has been featured in knock number 3. I do not have knock number 3. Oh, interesting. Why did this one... Is M equals 1 supposed to be some kind of... There we go. I don't need it. Okay, so let's read this one. Practical Magic, or what to do when your first level... What to do now that your first level magic users cast their one spell. This might be interesting. Currently playing in Miranda Von Elkin's Nightwick Abbey, it has been great so far to be on the player side of the BX system and see how it feels to be on the receiving end of a BX DM in a Mega Dungeon. In BX fashion, my first level Frogling met a bifurcated end in the first session, but the magic user I rolled up, Mayfly, so far has survived 3 sessions. Here he is below. So Mayfly, first level magic users, got light, protection from evil, and read magic. Pretty great spread of stats for a magic user. So he's got 7 strength, 15 intelligence, 8 wisdom, 16 dex, and 16 con, 8 charisma. 15 intelligence gets them a 5% XP bonus, and the 16 dex makes throwing daggers +2 to hit, as well as the adjusted unarmored AC of 12. The biggest boon might be the 16 con, which effectively makes my magic user HD on par with fighter HD. But the question I am faced with is a perennial one: what to do when I've cast my 1 spell, or even second spell if I am higher level. While not insanely novel, I think below are 6 suggestions that can put you on the right track. Alright, so here we go. 1. Use hirelings. Far from being a dumb stat, charisma represents a solid force multiplier in D&D. Even if your magic user's charisma incurs a -1 bonus, still consider hirelings. 2 or 3 hirelings armed with spears, 3 people are allowed in a 10-foot space, can create a formidable second rank behind clerics, dwarves, and fighters. Another variation would be to arm them with short bows. If the DM is a stickler for space, then try crossbows, firing alternately to keep up the pressure. Terrence says they have knocks because their Kickstarters always seem to magically coincide with their own personal periods of grinding poverty. And have no knocks. Yeah, I haven't gotten around to getting them. I know I hear good things about them. I just haven't gotten them. I know people love them. And if your charisma is low, well, speak with a silver tongue, and by that I mean pay cash up front for their loyalty. All right, so hirelings, first one, which is a good one. 2, daggers are ranged weapons. While D4 damage might not seem exciting, there's still a 50% chance you roll a 3 or a 4, which is enough to down a 1 hit die opponent with an average HP, or shave off enough to ensure follow-up hits kill them. It's also worth noting that ranged weapons get a +1 to hit at short range. So Mayfly there gets a +3 to hit with throwing daggers, and I've made sure to equip him with 5 to last most combats. Third, oil flasks are ranged weapons. This requires a 1-2 combination, but opponents for a square can be covered in oil. Then, when flame is applied, it's D8 damage for 2 rounds to things covered in that oil. So a total potential 2d8 damage, which is pretty hefty. I don't know if BX does BX have in straight BX? Is that what it is? Damage for oil flasks? I don't recall. I don't know if they even have what it is. I'll have to look it up. If somebody knows, if somebody there has BX handy and knows whether they do or not, that might be a homebrewy thing in that campaign, but I couldn't tell you. It feels a little bit high to me, but that just might be because I am an ungenerous BX GM. Also worth noting that torches can be used as weapons. Fourth, scrolls are paper spell slots. Yes, this might be a little obvious, but I think it is under-discussed how scrolls can help enhance party success. The 100 gold piece per level seems expensive, but an extra hold portal prevents the lizard folk patrol from getting through a door after you've absconded with 2 500 gold piece ruby eyes, then it was worth it. Knowing that protection from evil allows you to walk into a room with an iron golem and walk out unmolested, gold chalice in hand is amazing value at 100 gold pieces. And the fifth is bring equipment. Most magic users are really not carrying much except the spellbook, scrolls, and 5 daggers. This leaves plenty of room for useful dungeon equipment like torches, oil, rope, but also less obvious stuff like a stinky wheel of cheese, water skin, a bag of rats. That's an interesting one. Chalk, a shovel, crowbar, candles, paper, sacks, pitchfork, or spikes. Seems like a silly list, but these items are the fuel for crazy OSR hijinks and safe dungeon exploration. And sixth is be a thoughtful player. Just because you don't have an immediately useful spell or any spell to cast doesn't mean that you are out of the game or can provide nothing. Your magic user still can perform an action or undertake observations in a dungeon turn, meaning that a more thorough exploration of the space is performed in a shorter amount of time. Only on the third session of Nightwick Abbey did Mayfly actually cast a spell from a scroll. Prior to that, he participated in no combat, only as an observer, but did marshal his hirelings in the second rank. He wedges doors open or shut. Got 8 half-hit die creatures to fight to the death over rations, paid off goblins, and made a rope ladder for a quick exit. All right. Well, I mean, it's always interesting. I feel like these are really good articles to have. Part of me, just is like, well, Jesus, people need to be told these things. It's kind of almost self-evident that you can do a bunch of stuff. But I think it's obvious that no, it is not self-evident that if you're the magic user and you have, because here's what I think what happens, right? I think it's those of us a certain type are like, well, what do you're a magic user and you have no spells up, but that's not all you can do. You're not your spells. You're not, oh, I cast my one spell, so now I'm just this vessel, an empty nothing walking around. It's like, you can still do whatever you want to do. Granted, you can't cast a spell, but neither can the fighter, neither can these other folks. And granted, they have their own tricks, but you could do whatever they do, because remember going back to that kind of, there's not a lot of, other than say the thief skills, and hopefully you've added a system in where other folks can do things, thieves can just do them better, sort of thing. But, but even apart from that, all the stuff outside of thief skills, let's say, or anything you can do. So yeah, come up with interesting stuff. That's that kind of game within a game. Yeah, use daggers, use bags of rats if you can get them. Use whatever you've got. Yeah, get all kinds of funky stuff and just use your brain. You're in the room with them. And it's funny because as the game progresses, I know that as playing a fighter in an OD&D game, there are situations in which I can't do much other than use my brain and try to think about other things because I don't have the game kind of turns and it's like, well, we're at the spot and there's no way around it unless we can either come up with a novel idea or a spell, and I don't have the spell, so I have no way of tackling it directly. So what can I do? I was like, I can try to come up with a novel idea, and the game just kind of it'll kind of turn like that. It'll sort of turn one way then the other, then back again. So yeah, as a magic user at low levels, yeah, you only get that one spell, but you're not useless outside that spell. And especially if you're in a game like I run where everything's D6 anyway, then your dagger is not even disadvantaged at all to a sword. And yeah, you can throw it. And sometimes you got to get in there and scrap it up. And yeah, you can carry other stuff around, and you can be just as useful as anybody else, and then more so when you get your spell back. Terrence says the bag of rats looks like it has myriad uses. It definitely could have myriad uses. And so it's just funny that this kind of thing gets was it this one that got picked up for or was it this one? It was featured. So I guess the funny thing is that it's like, wow, like it just must be that, I guess, just as a community we are missing so much of this. I mean, on the one hand, I think wow, it's still just like, wow, we actually need this article. We need somebody to tell us, hey, when you run out of this thing, it's kind of like if there was an article for a fighter that said, hey, you're not fighting, so what can you do? It's kind of weird. I don't know why. I think it's just I don't know if other classes have this issue. Maybe they do. Maybe because the wizards have this very specific thing that even that other classes don't have in the same way. I guess clerics kind of do, but clerics also are beefier, where it just feels like your whole utility is in these spells. So it must just hit people in their brains that, oh my gosh, I've done my useful thing, now I'm useless. And it's certainly not true, because it doesn't. People don't think of that like, thief. You're not in a dungeon and you're not pickpocketing people. So how do you make yourself useful? And it's like, no, I don't. No one says to the fighter outside of combat, how do you make yourself useful? I don't know. You just do stuff. But it must be that it's got to be the wizard and the kind of the spell thing that triggers something in the way these other classes don't. Because I guess someone can say, well, there can always be a combat. It's like, yeah, but not. I mean, that doesn't mean that but they still have to do stuff outside of combat, as does the thief, if you're not in an alleyway and you're not trying to slit somebody's throat, kind of thing. But so that's cool. All right, so now that was the kind of the part before the part. Terrence says, wizards with one weak spell always remind me of the Glass Unicorn, where Schmendrick tries to magic a cage open, but then admits that he pickpocketed the keys after his magic flops. Yep. Schmendrick. I remember the Glass Unicorn's great. Except for maybe that interlude with where he enchants the tree. I probably could do without that one. That one hasn't aged particularly well, but yeah, I mean, you gotta be tricksy. You gotta be a little bit canny. And those are the kind of, I mean, this is the interesting thing. I think I don't know if it's a generational thing or whatever, but I like that game within a game with wizards of, I found the right spells. Like there's the highs and the lows. If you memorize, and this assumes that once you get spells where you actually have more, where the spells you have are more than the ones you can cast. But when you're sitting there looking like, I got this many spells, I can only prepare this many. I got 5 spells in my spell book, but I can only prepare 3. Which 3 am I going to prepare? I always felt like it stinks when you prepare the wrong spells. Well, I thought we'd need Read Magic, and I thought I'd need this one and some other one, and what we really needed were these, and I forgot it. But when you nail it, it feels really good. And I guess I'm willing to live with that. At least me personally as a player, I'll live with the highs and the lows, because that's that kind of game within the game I like. Hey, you're playing this game. It's like you trying to glean all you can from your surroundings, what's going on, so that when you go and camp and then move on, you've picked the right spell, or no, you didn't, or some combination in between. But I know that's another thing that people do not like, or some folks don't like. Okay, so back to this. Now we're on to this. Back to part 3. Starting magic users are not feeling the magic. A common refrain in old school games, most often from those new to old school play, is that the first level magic users suck. Don't feel like masters of the arcane, I mean, they're not Masters of the Arcane yet, and are very limited unless you have sleep and or get to the point of gaining Fireball. To those new to the game, the best way to play a first level magic user is just to wait in the 3rd or 4th rank until it's time to cast sleep, then lean back and look at your phone. Boring. Regarding what to do after a first level magic user has cast their only spell, covered that in a previous blog post, which was featured in Knock 3. Woot. Continuing that series, I'd like to address how a GM can get their magic users off to a better start using options that don't stray far from BX as a base chassis. So let's look at how we can layer some decisions on top of a starting magic user so the character feels like a proper student of the arcane and not just a 2 hit point chump waiting to feebly cast their 1 magic missile, then pray they make it to more interesting levels. Hey, Starblazer. Oh, appreciate it. Thanks so much. I'm happy to have you, glad to have you, and thanks for the kind words. All right, so, and to be fair, I've written up stuff for my own games, like doing things like getting rid of fancy and casting for more kind of risk-reward, more casters. So I get where folks are coming from, and I am not so stone-hearted that I don't appreciate the woes of the magic user, the low-level magic user. But they're always different, and I try not to, I don't like the free cantrips and things like that. I for the most part, there are some I would have no problem. I haven't really done this in my own game, but I would have no problem doing something like saying, okay, you can read magic because you're a wizard, and wizards learn to read magic. That's just the thing you can do. Or even, that would be fine. Something like that as kind of like it's not really a cantrip, but it's a spell that's always on kind of thing. Yeah, you can read magic. You just can't. It's not even a magic spell. It's like there's a secret, whatever the magic script or whatever, you can read it. You got the right eyes to see, kind of thing. So let's see what they have here. So first off, rolling up a new magic user. After throwing 3d6 down the line, as Crom intended, the player has ended with average stats, but a 13 in intelligence, netting a +1 bonus and 5% XP gain by choosing a magic user. By BX Raw, this PC has a spellbook, a dagger, no armor, and on average, 100 to 110 gold pieces plus 2 to 3 hit points. This PC is Elizabeth the Lucky. First, DM is given leeway to define the spellbook and the mentor. Out of the box, Raw in BX, DM may choose which spells a magic user can start with. This advice is also mirrored by Gygax in AD&D when it is commented that magic users, after a successful apprenticeship, are gifted a spellbook from their mentor, which includes read magic and 1 spell from an offensive, defensive, and utility first level spell list. Here are 3 great resources for unique spins on these aspects of magic users, and we have some links. Ben L's 6 starting spellbooks, K-Trays, D100, Mercurial Mentors, and Weird Wizards, and then Carcass Crawler number 4 and Dolmenwood, which has some grimoires, and then Dolmenwood has some different spellbooks. Elizabeth the Lucky rolls a 3 for the starting spellbook, giving her a lesser copy of Geometry of Unseen Potencies, which includes level 1 spells, Hold Portal, Floating Disc, and a level 2 spell, Levitate. Plus, she's given the read magic. This always makes sense to me. A complete version of the tome is described as, quote, the work of Dagalon the Geometer, a mystical master of force and balance, architect of suspended structures. Excuse me. He had the original crafted by confounding Ubeus, who constructed books like puzzles and conundrums. Geometry of Unseen Potencies is bound between polished stones taken from the hearts of substantial clouds in Wishery. Although ponderous in appearance, the book weighs almost nothing. Now for the mentor. Using Hold Portal as the category, Elizabeth rolls a 5. I don't know where he's getting these, but maybe it's the 6 starting spellbooks source, just in terms of where the examples are coming from, but I don't know it's ultimately important. Okay, so Elizabeth rolls a 5. Oh, it is the Mercurial Mentors. Okay, it's K-Trays thing. Okay, so she's rolling on K-Trays, or they're rolling for this character on K-Trays tables. Okay, she was instructed by Hemil's flawless clone and, quote, you swear saw them dissolve into a puddle of goo once, unquote. So the player's magic user mentor is potentially cloned, could be sentient black pudding. Oh, I gotta sneeze. Excuse me again. Okay. So the player's magic user mentor is potentially cloned, could be sentient black pudding. Maybe there's a flawed version out there. And what of this spellbook? Is there a way to get a true copy of Geometry of Unseen Potencies? All great questions for the DM to incorporate into world building. Second, let the player decide which first level spell has been memorized and which first level spell has been made into a scroll. The decision of which spell to memorize and which spell to take as a scroll comes down to deciding which spell the player thinks will be immediately useful in the adventure and which spell might be situationally useful and so is good to bank in a paper spell slot, the scroll. Elizabeth's player decides that Hold Portal might help them escape their first dungeon delve, while Floating Disc might be important only when they locate a treasure they can't carry, so banks it on a scroll. Now the starting magic user has potentially two spells to cast instead of the normal starting one spell, and we've not really deviated from the rules of BX. All right. Third, let the players decide if they want more information, more hands, or more spells. Old school magic users are given the most expensive item their class needs, the spellbook, and they can't wear armor or wield any expensive weapons. So how can the money be put to use in a way that is in the form of an impactful decision? How about letting the player decide if they want to gain a man-at-arms, another scroll, or a map of the dungeon? In keeping with average rolling, Elizabeth's player gets a 10 on their 3d6 roll for starting money, equaling 100 gold pieces. Looking over spells, the player thinks that Hold Portal might be good for a quick escape, and Floating Disc can transport something large, so a treasure map might be a good option. Okay, so I would just in the text, because treasure maps are definitely a thing that players are supposed to be getting a hold of. I wouldn't say map of the dungeon, but yeah, give them a treasure map, which is then just use whatever rules you're doing for generating treasure maps to do that. Fourth, introduce the concept of scroll production because it provides an immediate beneficial downtime action and sinks for gold. Not groundbreaking, but I feel often forgotten or ignored. The Holmes Basic D&D prescription of 100 gold pieces per week per spell level to transcribe is widely adopted in old school circles. So a second level spell takes 200 gold pieces in 2 weeks to produce. This provides some immediate downtime activities and choices for the magic user to make, and it increases the number of spells they can cast in a given adventure beyond what they can cast by spell slots. This might not seem a lot, but if a game occurs weekly or bi-weekly, this can allow for an accumulation of 2 to 4 extra scrolls, greatly augmenting the spellcaster's power. Whew. As Terrence says, as a frequent wizard player, man-at-arms, please. Yeah, nothing wrong with the man-at-arms option. Finally, introduce the nebulous concept of magical research. Yes, and I'm just that's fine. So, yeah, I think, because something that I was I wouldn't say shocked, but it's, because of, let me see if I can get it up quickly, because I'm just so used to that thing again that often happens of not reading, but just, you're munging together. I'm munging in all the additions and various things in my brain. You forget certain things. So here I'm going down. Let's see. I'm trying to get to the part. This is in the the basic book. Yeah, it's the B, not the X. And let's see. I'm trying to see where it says how many spells. Okay, spells, a formula, blah, blah, blah. Let's see. Most adventures. No, where is the spell? No, I can't remember. Maybe it says it under wizard. Let me zoom out here. No. Wait. Here we go. Okay, so under magic users. Magic users are humans who, through study and patience, practice, have learned how to cast magic spells. Merlin the Magician was a famous magic user. Yeah, prime requisite is intelligence. That's fine. Special abilities. Magic users use many powerful spells. As they gain levels of experience, they also gain the ability to cast more and more spells. Magic user spells. Okay, so it's not mentioned here. So it's got to be mentioned there, and I just missed it. You see? Okay, only magic users, elves, and clerics can learn these formulas, and thus only they may cast spells. Spells must be memorized before an adventure begins. The character will remember the spell for any length of time. When a magic user elf, okay, that's fine. When the spell is cast, all right. Let's see. As characters increase in level, the number and type of spells they may memorize increases. Their space on the blackboard increases. Where does it say how many spells they get? I know I saw it somewhere because I looked it up. Maybe it's under wizard spells. Let's see. Here we go. Magic users and elves may use one spell at first level. Unlike clerics, magic users and elves must select the spells to be used from the spells they know. These spells are stored in large spell books. As magic users and elves gain levels of experience, the number of spells they may use also increases. Each magic user and elf has a spell book for the spells he or she has learned. A first level character will only have one spell, first level spell, in the spell book. A second level character will have two spells in the spell book. A third character will have three spells, so on and so forth. So I guess this is what I was trying to find. So the interesting thing here is that I don't ever remember playing with this, and it's unclear if you're only starting, because obviously you can. I don't even know if they even have rules for adding spells to your book, but I think they might have covered it. But we never played where you had just one first level character had one spell. They know one spell and they can cast one spell. But it seems to be the intent of the rules here. It was it's probably one of those things that was just house ruled so often that I never actually, to my recollection, played with it by the book, where somehow you just end up with you have one potential spell, so that a first level wizard would have exactly one spell. So you're done here and you're like, oh, okay, I got floating disc, and like that's literally the only spell you have. It always seemed to me that you'd get some number of spells, maybe 3 in your book. But it's just kind of interesting because I remember for something else I looked it up. So I was like, is that really true? Because I don't remember ever playing with just having one spell at first level and 2 spells at second level. Like, really? But that seems to be accurate. Does it say here about getting more spells? If advanced line today, a character may rememorize erase spells. Yeah, that's fine. Does it say where you can add them to your each spell? No, it doesn't really talk about it, I don't think. Unless it's somewhere else. It might be in the expert book, which I have. I happen to also have here. If it says anything else. Here we go. Getting new spells. So yeah, maybe it's only an expert thing. Magic users and elves must be taught their new spells. Most player character magic users and elves are soon to be members of the local magic users guild or apprenticed to a higher level NPC, which is kind of that mentor. They don't really I don't even know if they mention it anywhere else, but maybe just this little blurb, though they might. When player characters gain a level of experience, they will return to their masters and be out of play for 1 game week while they are learning their new spells. Either the player or the DM may choose any new spells. Magic users and elves are limited to the number of spells they may know, and their books will contain spells equal to the number and level of spells the caster can use in a single day. Thus, the books of a 4th level elf will contain 2 first and 2 second level spells. And see, here's the thing: is I don't ever remember playing with this rule, but it's there, and I kind of feel for it because I feel like I know from my game I wouldn't play with that rule. If you can find more spells, write them in your book. Get them in your book. Spend the time to get them in your book. I would not hold your and maybe there might be some hidden effective balance thing that happens by that. I mean, certainly the balancing thing is that you don't end up with the issue. Let's see. You don't end up in the situation where the wizard has basically the phone book. What are you in your spell book, and they just have everything. Right, that you don't end up with, because fourth level elf, so I think it's the same as 4th level wizard in terms of casting. Only 2 first and 2 second level spells. That's it. Let me go. Where's the dwarves? Elves go. So yeah, that's it. 2/2, 2/2/1. So you got to get way up here to you're level 14 and you have a bunch of spells. But like I said, we never play with that, and I'd be curious maybe to play it by the book. And then you have to. I like that idea of you can find it and keep it as a scroll, and then I guess you have to assume there is some interesting things here. So there's kind of a gamey thing that sneaks in here too, right? Because can you have more than one spell book? That would be the question. Okay, well, my spell book can only have 2 and 2. That's what it says right here. But could I have 2 spell books? It doesn't seem like, because here it says replacing lost spell books. A magic user or elf whose spell books are lost or destroyed cannot regain spells until these are replaced. or actually just saying this is how much it takes to do a new book, and obviously you can't rememorize stuff. So, and then you have to, it basically takes later time to do it. So, it's just one of those things. Well, can you have more than one? It seems like you really can't, otherwise the whole thing falls apart. But it's kind of interesting. But these things happen to me all the time because I'm playing OD&D and I'm playing this and playing that, and we always played with various bits of AD&D or whatever, just things that were just inherited. So I've never played as a magic user and started with had one spell then just two spell. Like I'm curious if folks must, because they're making these articles that obviously assume the kind of standard BX wizardry, and it's just funny that I just don't. I do not recall it alone. Oh, here's a note here. Cantrips are not the answer. Just give them a crossbow. Often I find that the cantrips people want what 5e has given them: consistent damage dealing spells that come at no magic expenditure cost. But I don't like this for 4 reasons. First, fighters, clerics, dwarves, elves, and thieves already do a decent range of damage, 1d6 to 2d6 damage given particular circumstances. So throwing another d6 or so damage on top to me is not interesting. 2, often those cantrip damage dealing spells also require a to hit roll, further making them feel less magical. At least the lowly magic missile auto hits, which can really be clutch in the right moment. Third, a magical d6 to d8 to hit source of damage is also similar to starting the worst quote-unquote fighter in the party, a magical +1 sword that sucks the magic out of true +1 swords or other magical weapons. And then fourth, it potentially draws a magic user players thinking away from lateral strategies to utilize non-damage dealing spells, which often are the more powerful and potentially lucrative options. I definitely agree with that. I mean, I agree with all of it, but yes, I agree that not everybody has to be the combat person. And because then what you end up with, I think in 5th edition, is no one's trying to figure out how to shortcut the combat because everyone has cool combat tricks. And I think when you take those away or you constrain them, then suddenly people are going like, well, gee, can I do something else because I don't have endless fireballs? And then this is definitely something that's been interesting playing in the OD&D game. Is I don't think in, I guess, over a year now, maybe a year and a little bit, a year and a third, a year and a couple months, I don't know exactly what was when I started playing in Daniel's game. I don't think the magic users have cast Fireball once. It is tremendously difficult. Not just because you have to get off spells before melee is joined, otherwise you can't, but just because the way Fireball works with the way it expands to fill the area and stuff. You just don't end up in situations where Fireball is useful unless you want to fry the entire party. So it's been really interesting. We have this spell that is built up in our minds over all these generations, or iterations of the game and generations of play. Fireball, and in this game, Fireball is practically used. I think they're trying to. I think they actually want to try to develop a more modern spell that's like a low key kind of damaging, but not Fireball, because it's just too easy to get wrong and burn everybody alive. Same thing with Lightning Bolt. It's hard to get in a situation where you can cast Lightning Bolt and it not bounce back at us. So they become much more situational spells in that version of the game. But I think when you finally do get a Fireball off, it's going to feel so much better than when you're just launching. And that's why I never liked the stuff where you could edit out. I forget the meta magic stuff. It's like, oh, you can edit out all my people and just hit the bad guys. Like, that's terrible. Then you really don't have to strategize or be tactical at all. You can just drop it and don't have to worry about it. So that just takes all to me, the kind of fun, thinky stuff out of the game. All right, so after that list, if a player still insists on having something to do, then don't change the magic. Just let wizards use a crossbow. It's ranged, does d6 damage, fires every other round, but could ever be ready for a quick first shot. And it feels like a wizardy weapon they would fool around with instead of a bow. But also, as a DM, don't forget to add magical stuff to your dungeons. Scrolls, potions, arcane scroll, only magic users can read, bizarre contraptions or distillation equipment, only they can use. Also think about allowing your player to incorporate components taken from dungeon foes in your games, allowing a low-level magic augmentation in addition to scrolls. Whew. Yeah, I mean, the crossbow's fine. I don't know. I feel like just use the daggers. But again, I use d6 damage for everything. So having throwing daggers is just as good as having a crossbow, basically. And I really think that the answer is just to get your get your wizards to think about, well, maybe don't try to shortcut this combat if you can. Which I don't. Which again, in these kind of games, especially at low levels, I don't think anyone's arguing with. No one's like, oh, I mean, I've never been like, oh no, I wanted to fight all those things, because it's like, you know, the fights are gonna come, and if you can get that out of that fight, especially if it's you're not in a good position, and you can have somebody's like, I got this trick I can throw out there, it's gonna just wipe these guys out. Then you know, you take it and run away. All right, let's see. I've got well, I got 2 more here. Let's see. Do I have time? Yeah, I think maybe I have time. And then I got to do laundry. Ugh. But it must be done. I won't be able to do it tomorrow because of Paige. Okay. So let's see here. This is called Combat System. Hit categories, no hit points. From Routes and Routes blog. Combat. Or how do you do? Observe. Combat. Hit chance determines how difficult a combatant is to hit in combat. Lower is better. It is rendered. Oh my gosh. Okay. Base hit chance minus armor. E.g. hit chance 9 minus 2, which is written. HC 7, which is spoken. Base hit chance comes from level. Okay. So you take your level, which I guess maybe it's going backwards. So that higher level, obviously, so maybe 9 at first level and 1 at 9th level kind of thing. Let's see. Each member rolls initiative D6 lesser or equal to space to go before monsters. I'm not sure what that means. If most foes are particularly slow, I don't know, SD, SU. There's a lot of these little, I don't know all these. Okay, if session, all right, okay, roll bleed SDIE or downed SDIE, SDI. Okay. I don't know. I mean, it seemed the concept of this blog post seemed cool, and it might be cool, but there's a lot going on here, and I feel like I'm missing some much needed context on a bunch of the stuff. Let's see. All right, so let's see what attacks do. Okay, so melee attacks. Both members of a combat are able to fight, meaning mutual kills are possible, but an individual may only defend themselves level times per round outside their own turn. Okay, so if you have 2 people fighting you in your first level, seems like the second person's getting a freebie on you. I may be wrong. Attack die size is determined based on attack difficulty table. Oh boy. Wow. All right, so attacker rolls their attack die and trying to get under or equal to that HC, that hit. What was it? Hit chance. So remember, one might be hit chance 7. So if your hit chance is 7, so if the attack difficulty is very difficult, it's a D30. And this would be target is supremely positioned, attacker's weapon is defective, etc. Difficult is a D24. Bad lighting, target is very agile. Target's on horseback. Regular is a D20. 2 equally armed fighters on flat ground. Easy is D16. Very easy D10. And execution happens when the target is helpless. So this is kind of an interesting way to do it, I think, right off the bat. Because you're not... The nice thing with modifiers, right? Oh, you have cover... I have cover, that kind of means something. Some of this is pretty good. Like, what is supremely agile? Like these, if this were the Marvel superhero game using phaser rip, you could say like if their agility is incredible, if they have incredible agility or better. Oh, there's a honking horn outside. And it's right outside my window, though. Hopefully you guys aren't hearing it. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure if I'm able to gate it out. Any case, so if you were playing phaser rip, you could say, oh, they're incredible agility, which actually has a meaning, right? It's one of the columns in phaser rip would be incredible, I think, right before amazing. It's like remarkable, incredible, amazing. Am I remembering that correctly? Any case. But with this, like, what is supremely agile? Does the player know if they're supremely agile? Do they have to ask me every time? I have to make you've got, I don't know, I don't even know what numbers there are. If you've got 17 decks, to use D&D terminology, are you supremely agile? 16 decks, are you still supremely agile? What I like about having the modifiers like you might see in D&D is just that they're just there. Plug them in and go. I don't have to make a call, because all this is asking me to do is I'm going to have to make some table of what is supremely agile and what isn't, if I'm going to remember from game to game, right, to make a note. Supremely Agile, 17 or above, or whatever number. The same thing with kind of bad lighting. Like, what is it? Are we talking in the dark? Are we talking in the gloom? Yeah, like what? Like, target is supremely positioned. Like, what does that mean? I don't know. I almost would just prefer, like, hey, just add up some modifiers. But the nice thing is, I guess, is if you can if you wrap your brain around this and internalize it, it becomes very fast. Oh yeah, that's easy, very easy, regular, difficult, very difficult. But I tend to like having things that are just kind of mechanically stable, I guess, where I can know as a player where I stand without having to make a pleading argument. No, last week you said that with my 16 decks I was supremely agile, and then this week you're like, nah, really, supremely agile is really 17, 18. Sorry, pal. You know. And then we do have some kind of attack matrix. But there's a lot going on here. All right, so we have some kind of attack results, and then some letters or Roman numerals. I don't know what that means. Or is this just the matrix? Maybe it's just a flat matrix. So attack result is 9. You hit HC9. I see. So they're kind of doing the kind of cleric turning table sort of thing, or kind of phaser rippy, comparing your results. Because obviously, if you get greater than 10, you're not hitting anything ever. I mean, I guess unless they're, I'm assuming that maybe your hit chance can never go above 9. That's what it sounds like. And then it's giving you kind of, but then there's obviously, it looks like you're getting some kind of multiplier. So if you roll a 9 and you hit a 9, that's 1. But if you roll a 7 and you hit a 9, that's 2. I think these are categories. Yeah, so that's kind of interesting. So you have these different categories. So the better you do, you kind of go up the category. But I can't tell what these abbreviations, things, what it all is. But that's kind of cool. So for a club, again, I can't read what they get, but you can have different effects, whether you got a category 1, category 2, category. It's kind of like 3 level. Like you barely hit, maybe it's a really good clean hit, or 3 kind of a crit hit, which is kind of cool. I can dig it. But all these things. So it seems like a sword. Maybe it's stun out. Probably should have zoomed in here before. That may be what they mean. So if it's a club, I don't know, stun out, and then down. I don't know what that is. A whip. Stun, sword, bleeding, maybe damage, down. I don't know, DS. Okay, so 1 is stun, 2 bleeding, 3 is down. Excuse me. Okay, basically. And then you have some injury types. Stunned, bleeding, downed, killed. Killed. Kill him. I need to watch Dark City again. It's been too long. All right, and then we have these other ones. Okay, it's cool. I mean, it's interesting. I do think you could probably get there a little bit more cleanly, or at least for me. If you're using D&D style and D&D style attributes with modifiers and things, I'd rather just use the modifiers. And then you could still figure out, because you can usually take these matrices and it can be like, look at, like, not, it's kind of like if you beat it by 2, you go up the next level. So 7 beats 9 by 2, so it's up here, right? 5 beats 9 by, 4, so you end up here, kind of thing. Though it's interesting that they did something kind of, I don't know if I like it. If you roll a 1, it's 1. You don't, it should be the best, and it's not. It hits everything, but doesn't do more. And 2, I don't know, that's interesting. That's weird. It's because it's not, I would have thought that the lower you roll, the better, but it's not. What you really want to roll is, the best thing you can roll on this chart is a 3, not a 1. Interesting. I don't know. I don't know if I like that part of it, but that's kind of cool. Maybe a little too much for me, but it's cool. Wow, they got armor and sundering, fatigue and infection, injuries. Pooh, they got a lot. They got a lot going on there. All right. The last one, I think, for the day. Actual test hex crawl mechanics, parenthetically, launch session. This is from Seed of Worlds blog. Right up my alley, methinks. Launched a new campaign, trying to bring hex crawling to my open tables. I thought I would write it up from a deployment of actual hex crawling mechanics to see how/if this type of play mechanically differed from standard 5e with a map. All right, so this is, I guess, we're doing 5e here. Session log with mechanics focus. Curtain raised one morning with the players in a shrine where they had individually washed up. The old woman shrine keeper shuffles over and they get the lay of the local land from her. They ask her for the local problems, and she mentions hearing rumors of two groups troubling the locals. They hike down into town. First test of the travel mechanics of overloaded encounter dice, roll per hex traverse, hex being 2.5 miles. Arriving at the local village. So I guess I would like to see what the, I can't see what the actual thing is, the actual mechanic, but all right. So I guess assuming that they rolled and didn't get anything. Arriving at the local village, they introduce themselves as they've come to help and are brought through to the inn, fed, and talked through what information locals have. With the few hours of daylight remaining, there is some information gathering, practicing of magic, and two of the party help the local thatcher finish his work. The day ends with mixing with the locals as they come in from the fields and some more information on what the locals understand around them. All told, this gives them the sense that southwest there is some nearby bunch of tree whispering snatchers. Somewhere further off northwest, there are a shaven-headed bunch of arsonists and murderers. Wow. I don't know what tree whispering snatchers are, but that sounds interesting. It intrigues me. One of the party talks with some just arrived traders and wants a fancy cloak. They have but lacks the coin, getting a personal objective to find some fancy furs to trade. Next day, they eat and talk to one of the hirelings, also at the inn, who has tangled with the tree whispering snatchers. They're going to investigate. So here we have a rough hex MIP. They set out, guided by the hireling fighter, skirting the fungal forest hex, passing a dark pool, and spotting a giant otter. Rolled percept on the encounter. Okay, I don't know what mechanic they're using. That's fine. Excuse me. They tangle with the otter, who proves unexpectedly fierce and gives the barbarian a serious bite before they collectively down it, but botch skinning it. Otter won initiative and proved equal to a party of level 1s for 2 rounds. System-wise, this was fascinating. I had said the barbarian, being a local of this relatively wild area, probably had knowledge on skinning a beast and was going to just let him do it, but they rolled for whatever reason and got a nat 1. So I took they took the dice's judgment and no giant otter skin for them. They set off past the locals' turf cutting operation, traversed a hex, so they rolled a locality, traversed a hex of dark pools, fatigue, con saves, or take 2024 style level of exhaustion. Okay, this is some 5e stuff. Then arrived at a hex with a vile shrine in it. They investigate this sacrificial altar, then burn or tear down the tabernacle over it. This attracts a group of the cultists. I rolled low on the numbers, so it was just a short, mean fight where they took 2 prisoners. Cultists won initiative, and it turned into a glass hammers fight on both sides. Whoever landed a blow did significant damage. The PCs just had the numbers. They decided the fire probably attracted attention and decided to head home. Lugging the prisoners over the dark pools slowed them down, and daylight was fading by the time they got back to the turf cutters and traveled home with them for safety in numbers. Thus ended the session back at the inn, their new hub. What worked really well, this was done with only 1 character sheet among folk, just our recollection of what a barbarian, sorcerer, or warlock ought to be able to do. It worked really well. Where dice were rolled, it was typically so high or low that the hit-miss was obvious. The hex traverse mechanics worked well enough. It was a short enough trek over and back to find the tabernacle, but it will be interesting once or if they try to root out the rest of the cult, because staging out of the village and travel time will leave them with very little daylight on any given day to deal with them. Well, that's because you gotta do it overnight. Another thing that worked as the image above, a hex template in a protector pocket, put the locations they had actually seen on it in blue, but locations they just heard of in orange, and let them decide what they would do. Orange things got turned to blue as the night went on. All in all, satisfactory first test. So you can see blue stuff they know, orange stuff they don't, and you can kind of turn it blue. So pretty cool. I'd like to know more what mechanics they're using, but maybe it's in a different blog entry. Always cool to see folks doing some hex crawly type stuff. Unfortunately, I don't know if there's much to say about it because I don't know what mechanics they're using. So just a nice review. Well, that's all I got, folks. Like I said, I'm going to Page tomorrow. So that's the what is it? Is it Pennsylvania? Hold on, what is it? Oh yeah, pour one out pour one out for David Lynch. No, that is not it. Oh, goodness. Can I put Philadelphia area? Is it Philadelphia area gaming? Like that's a Philadelphia area gaming expo. Yes, so I will be at Page tomorrow, which is still ongoing now. So if you're in the Philadelphia area and you're going to be at Page, you might find me. Hey, Jason, appreciate you hanging in there. Yeah, other than that, that's all I got, folks. So have a great, hope maybe I'll see you at Page. I might have some stuff about Page next week. We'll see. Other than that, have a great rest of your day, night. Whenever you end up watching or listening to this, I'm off to do laundry. Game on. Talk to you later. Bye now.